You're with Sean Jung and Where the Veil Grows Thin, an exploration of the sacred moments of our human experience in life and death, joy and sorrow, birth and end of life. It's the unscripted instant when the heart opens, the face-to-face moments with the divine.
And welcome back to Where the Veil Grows Thin. I am Sean Jung, and I have my friend Ben with me again today to talk about something. We're not exactly sure what, but we're happy to have you back. Hi, Ben.
Hi, Sean. It's good to see you.
Thanks. So Ben and I were emailing, or I was emailing Ben last night about today, and one of the things I told him I wanted to say was how grateful I am for all the support I've gotten in the past week or so from people responding to the last thing that went out from me, which was to say, for the summer months, my offerings to listeners will be sporadic and not scheduled necessarily every week. And people were falling all over themselves to tell me how happy they were that I was making that decision. So that has helped tremendously to ease my mind that I can do this thing in the summer of taking care of my gardens, taking care of myself, taking care of my husband. So thank you, all of you who reached out to tell me, good for you, girl, you do that. So I was
You know,
emailing
I
Ben last night. Go, tell me what.
I was just going to say that I think that one of the things that you and I talked about was what are we going to talk about? But hearing you say out loud the support that you've gotten and the feeling that that created in you, I think what we might have an opportunity to talk about is burnout, and that
Yeah,
we put these expectations on ourselves that we're going to be everywhere and we're going to be able to help everyone with anything. And that's not realistic.
no,
But we will push ourselves because we believe that that is what we are supposed to do. So how great is it when people relieve us of our duty, if only even temporarily, by saying, "No, it's okay. You can go take care of yourself." That's important. That's an important part of this process. So maybe that is something that we should explore is how do we recognize when we are getting close to burnout or suffering burnout?
hmm,
And how do we reframe the way that we look at the world around us and the people around us who we love very much, who we care for, strangers and friends and family alike? And how do we say, today isn't a day where I can put all of the energy into this thing that I understand is important, but if I burn out, I'm not doing anybody any good?
So, um, yeah, let's have a conversation about that because I think every single adult will understand what we're talking about. I think one of the really beautiful things is when we can make the decision to back off a little bit from whatever we're spinning in or embroiled in that could cause us to reach that point of burnout is a great word. People know what that is. If we can listen to whatever the voices are that usually it's in our body somewhere and heed that so that we make the decision to step back and slow down a little bit before it happens, that's a lifesaver. If we, once you reach it, I think it's a different story. It's a different, there, different things need to happen. If somebody truly burns out, it's so drastic. And I think drastic measures are taken. And then there's a lot to rebuilding the bridge back to your life if you let that happen. And not that we let it happen, but there is so much pressure outside and inside. And that it's a curious thing to me. Where does that come from? Where does that sense inside of us come from that says you have to do more? You're not doing enough. Of course you should be able to do everything. You should be able to manage the yard and the gardens. And it's different than in the wintertime here when Greg manages the snow and I get to stay inside. I manage the yard, and it takes all day, every day sometimes, and I think about the podcasts all the time when I'm doing that, but I don't when I get back inside, I'm too tired and I'm worn out and I'm hot and I need to eat and then I need to take a shower, blah, 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 blah. So, heeding that sense that it's okay, and you have helped me in this realm for this particular journey in these podcasts to say, Sean, it's okay. You don't have to do this every single Sunday. But there was this sense in me that we launched this, and I needed to do 1 year of trying at least to get a podcast out every Sunday. And we missed 1 week in that year. And that was phenomenal to me that we were able to do that. So, but now I feel like I can say, okay, people will still be there. It, People are still, if we send out the email that something's coming, they'll listen to it at some point. So listening to those voices that tell you, I don't feel right, something isn't right, something's off, I'm irritable, I'm short tempered, I'm I'm not sleeping, I'm not eating well, whatever those signs are in your life that tell you something is off track, you're not centered, you're not grounded, and then looking at what do I need to do and talking to somebody about it. If that's helpful, talk to somebody, talk to a best friend, talk to a partner, talk to your dog. And what do I need to do here? The the wisdom is in us. We have those answers. And then it's just a matter of giving ourselves permission to put ourselves first, which is a really difficult thing for most people because we're chided for that at different times in our lives for putting ourselves first.
Well,
Somehow we get the message that we need to put everybody else first before us. And so,
yeah, I think that you're onto something there, and that's part of the cruel reality as we get onto a track that leads towards burnout is that we do have an expectation that is both internal, I believe internal, but also for certain folks, it is also an external factor of, hey, you're really good at taking care of people, or you're very good at
yeah.
being a caretaker. And we also know internally that when we are able to be in service to others, when we are able to help, that does provide a dopamine response of this feels good. I want to feel valuable. I want to feel my sense of purpose through
Oh,
my interactions with others. So we are the factory that is both creating supply and demand on
you are
ourselves.
so right.
And what we
It's a
need to do is realize that the factory can't run 3 shifts a day. It needs to have some downtime for the machines to cool off and for things to be taken care of, maintenance.
Yeah, and and feeling worthy of doing that for ourselves. Understanding that
Yeah,
if we don't do that for ourselves, we can no longer be the impactful influence we are in other people's lives. Is difficult. That's a difficult thing. And
oh,
and
and
it
how cruel is that when we get to that feeling of diminished capacity where we realize that we're missing a step that we once had. We don't have that gear that once had.
yeah.
And we know that we're there, but we also know what we were capable of in the past or what we believed ourselves capable of in the past. And so now you're fighting with ghosts because you know your expectations for yourself, even if other people can't tell. So that's just another component to all of it.
Oh god, you're so right. You're so right. It is a double-edged sword that cuts deeply if we fall on it. And
Absolutely. Oh. Yeah.
Maybe knowing that and remembering that if we fall on that sword, we die. So all those people you take
Mm.
care of, and maybe not literally die, like expire and be dead, but maybe totally go down a rabbit hole of a breakdown where you have to be hospitalized or medicated in order to even stay alive and function. If you're a mother and you have children you care for, you don't want that to happen. And,
Right.
I think mothers are often in that cauldron of hot, bubbly, oh my God, I can't get it all done. And, I think sometimes about the pioneer women who everything had to be done by scratch. Like they had to bake their own bread. They couldn't go to the grocery store and buy a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
How in the world did they keep their families alive and keep themselves? Okay, maybe they weren't okay. Anyway, it is dangerous if we can understand that it's dangerous to the ones we love, even if we can't necessarily love ourselves enough to do it, if we can understand that the people we love and care for are in danger of not having us, if we don't pay attention to what we need to do to fill our cup. I think I've mentioned this before in these podcasts, but when I was in school studying chaplaincy, I had a teacher. I had several teachers, all but one have died, which is really interesting to me. But Abby Kay was my teacher, and she would say, you have to fill from the saucer. Your cup needs to always overflow, and you feed, not fill from the saucer, you feed others from the saucer. So the cup is overflowing, you're feeding from the saucer. How do we keep our cups full? What does it take? Sometimes, we have to be able to know that too. We have to be able to know what we need to restore and recalibrate and fill our cup.
What what are some things that you find are restorative in that sense for you personally?
Um, the pool. I live in this place that has the largest outdoor natural hot springs pool, and being able to go to the pool and just float in the hot pool with my eyes closed and my head resting on the edge, just to be able to float in water for an hour is it. Two things happen. One, I feel completely relaxed and restored because while I'm floating, I'm releasing all those things that I know are not mine to carry that may have glummed onto me somewhere. And I never worry about the other people in the pool because those waters are so healing that I know that that it's fine to let those things go into the water. Other people are not going to be contaminated by them. It's not toxic. So that's one thing. Also, being in the sun, being outside in the sun, just restful, like sitting on a lounge chair with my eyes closed. I'll go out there with a book and try to read, and I can't. I just want to lay down with my eyes closed. Those are two things that are really restorative: time alone in the water and time alone in the sun. Um, hosting a breakfast for my friend yesterday whose birthday it was, although the outcome of the day, there was a lot of sadness in it because the dog got lost and has not been found yet. But being able to invite friends onto our deck on a beautiful time of day and feed them, that's my biggest
Mm.
love language, is feeding people. Um, and which has been really difficult for Greg because he could care less about food, but he knows that that's my love language. So he allows me to make him things. But to be able to host a small gathering. We host large gatherings, but that's exhaustive, not restorative. But to be able to just have three friends on the deck for a very intimate um, meal is restorative. So not doing the yard work, not pulling weeds, not being, those things are also they help me feel like I'm filling my cup. Those things, taking care. So in doing that, I'm taking care of something that is then going to take care of me. These gardens are going to feed us. They have lots of yummy veggies that we love to eat. So I love to do that, but anyway. So did I answer what about you, Ben? What are the things you do to feel like you can step over the threshold and leave the house and be as good as you can be?
Yeah. I try to make sure that I go on at least a walk a day, and oftentimes multiple walks a day. I just get sort of somewhere between restless and just feeling fussy if I sit indoors for too long. So I will get up and go on a walk. And then I also love painting. I paint every night, and I have been doing that for a little, guess I'm coming up on about 2 years or 3 years of that. Um, but I've intentionally gone out of the way to not learn anything about technique, not understand what expectations are for the market or any of those things. And it's allowing me to create from a place of just childlike creativity. I don't set out with the intention of painting anything specific. I wait to see what I painted and then what that is. And then being able to use what I've sort of coined interpretive elasticity to see the painting as something and to find whatever meaning is in it, and then take a step back or flip the canvas 45 or 90 degrees and then look at it again and say, okay, it's the same paint, but now what do I see? And being able to pull myself from whatever daily stressor is going on and create an environment where my brain has to engage and make meaning and make sense of things has been really, really beautiful and has been very helpful for my brain. And it's nice to just sort of surrender cognition, to surrender consciousness
Yeah.
to just just act of creation and creativity. And my background, and I realize that we haven't really talked about this on the podcast, is that I used to run a publishing company. And before that, I very much thought the most important thing in the world to me was books. Books were the most important thing in the world to me. And spending time in the publishing industry and the stress of things that are adjacent to what the actual love for books I had was, things like, what does the book cover look like? Who's going to buy this? Who's going to review this? Having an editor brain that was overanalyzing each sentence in many ways ruined books for me. It
Oh,
it made it stressful, non-enjoyment, burnout thing, and painting has become my healing in some ways, the salve to get over what happened to me with books. And that's why I am so determined not to learn anything about what is expected of a painter
oh,
or
good.
to paint.
Yeah. You know, yeah, that's fascinating. I wonder when you hold a book, do you read at all, or do you just stay away from books right now because it's
Well, I'm still working with books in the capacity that I am doing freelance editing and ghostwriting for people. So I still have to get into that world. But just picking up a book for the enjoyment of reading, I just can't flex that muscle now the way that I used to. And I hope that that will come back. I've recently started listening to classics as audiobooks just to remind myself of the joy of the written word and
a good
storytelling.
story. Yeah.
But I also think that we're living in such strong times that demand our attention in so many different ways that I think there's an internal struggle for me about what is the place for fiction right now when there is real world suffering. And what I have to remind myself is that books have the power through narrative, through storytelling, to be so influential in how people engage with the world, and they are a very important part of the human experience. What I sometimes lament is that I feel like we have entertained ourselves, we have written ourselves into our current situation because it became a blurry line between reality and entertainment. And we accept things as reality if we have become conditioned to believe them through entertainment. And I just hope that people will start creating books, music, art, etc., that shows the good in humanity, the perseverance of humanity, the power of community in humanity.
People are
So that
doing that, Ben. There
oh yeah, for
it is
sure they are.
happening. Yeah, there are people that are writing about that as a way to get out to as many people as possible that hope, that there is hope. There
Yeah.
we can do this. We can navigate this really gnarly time on the planet. It's fascinating to me about your experience in publishing. And you mentioned getting out and taking walks, and I didn't mention that really and truly, I think the cornerstone of my sanity is the recumbent stationary bike that's in our living room and the bike path that we live on along the river. And I am on one or both of them every day. And
That's great.
that breaking a hard sweat, like getting off the bike and being soaked, that's first thing in the morning, before anybody's even awake is when I can do that. And that is so important in our physiology, to get our heart rate up, to to work hard our body, because that's where everything is. So when you're doing that, you're expressing some of the energy of the things that could weight us down. And just taking a walk is doing the same thing. Breathing fresh air. I tell people all the time in grief work, okay, when you feel that wave coming, if you're indoors, step outside, take breaths of fresh air. If the sun is out, turn your face to the sun, close your eyes, and just take a breath. It doesn't take 1 minute to do that, and it can bring us back into our
Yeah.
bodies and bring us back to where we are. So it's really important to breathe fresh air and to move our bodies in staying sane.
And because there is an unwritten rule here at Where the Veil Grows Thin about not letting these podcasts go on too long,
I know.
maybe
Thank
right
you
now I'm
so
thinking I'm gonna go
much.
out and take a
Thank
walk.
you. Thank you so much for being mindful of that. And I hope our listeners have stayed with us. If not, I hope you'll come back and finish or whatever. Um,
It's also possible that listeners are listening while they are on a bike or on a walk,
yeah.
and we salute them for taking care
Yes.
of themselves.
Yes, we do. So thank you, Ben, again, for being with me where the veil grows thin. And I hope all of you will join us again.